Hey guys, so tonight I'm going to be talking about democratization and democratic consolidation, which I believe is topic 1.4 on AP Classroom. So democratization, as defined by AP Classroom, democratization is a transition from an authoritarian regime to a democratic regime, and it can have some or all of the following goals: more competitive and legitimate elections, more citizen participation in government processes, more government transparency, protected civil rights and liberties, equality among all citizens, and the achieving of rule of law rather than rule by law. So some factors that help and hurt democratization, some that help: ethnic diversity in electoral systems, more multi-party competition, so edging away from the one-party system, independent judiciaries, so governing bodies that make decisions by themselves and do not influence or do not answer really to anyone above them, protection of civil rights and liberties, and the separation of powers, so making sure that no individual or uh, governing body has too much power compared to the rest of the government. Some factors that hurt democratization: political corruption, obviously, restrictions on voting due to gender or socioeconomic standing, whatever it may be, limiting of civil rights and liberties, obviously, and polarization of competing parties. So there needs to be some general consensus between two opposing parties. They need to agree on at least some of the major concepts of government, because if the competing parties are too polarized, then they'll never agree on anything and no process will be made towards democratization. So then, democratic consolidation, as defined by AP Classroom, the process by which a democratic regime matures in terms of election rules, separation of powers, and protection of civil liberties, making it unlikely to revert to authoritarianism without an external shock. So, in other words, just becoming a complete democratic regime. To where it's just about impossible to revert to authoritarianism without that external shock, which could be a revolution or coup or anything with a very big impact. So, getting into our AP6 countries, UK is first country up. It's actually the only AP6 country that's reached democratic consolidation, meaning it's a complete democratic regime, and it's very, very unlikely that it would revert to authoritarianism without that external shock. Next up, Mexico and Nigeria. So for Mexico, it's very, very close to democratic consolidation. And some people might say that Mexico is actually already there, but it's not as sure as the UK's democratic consolidation. And actually, for Mexico and Nigeria both, the second point applies. They have many of the main aspects of democracy. They already have those, but there's still quite a bit of corruption in both countries that really hurt that transition to a democracy and will hold them back. And then finally, the last three: Iran, Russia, and China. So for Iran, they do hold elections, but they are still far from legitimate democracy, mainly due to these two factors: the Guardian Council and the power of the Supreme Leader. So the Guardian Council is an unelected governing body, and one of their jobs is to decide who is or is not worthy to run for a political position in the Iranian government. And so they can pretty much decide who will be in the Iranian government. So they have a little bit too much power. And obviously, the power of the supreme leader, he has a little bit too much power to be considered a true democracy. Anybody called the supreme leader, it probably won't be in a democracy. And then Russia began their democratization after the fall of the USSR. Some people might say that for a brief time they were a democracy, but now obviously Russia is edging back towards the authoritarianism due to the reign of Vladimir Putin, and they may already be there. And then for China, my only note says not close at all because they have quite a bit of work to do until they are a democracy. If you go back and look at the list of factors hurting democratization, China has just about all those. So that's it. Democratization and democratic consolidation, and how or if they apply to our six AP countries. Thank you.